So here we are briefly at the beginning of the, right at the end of the first operating round. We've got some track being laid by all three companies, of course. The LNN stretching down towards Birmingham. The tag trying to make the most of its money. Now, it could run two trains coming up, but you're only allowed to buy one per turn in the early stage of the game with this set to prevent somebody from stealing all the two trains as they tend to do over in many of the other games. Again, it's trying to be friendly to newbies, I think. And finally, the ABC, which is probably going to get Birmingham first, laying its track. In terms of stock order, we'll see everybody fell back a space, but the tag, because it's sold out, is rising in value. All 10 shares of the tag sold out. I don't think any stocks are going to fall on this round, but I can't be absolutely certain about that. I'll let you know if they do. But I'll probably play a little bit further now. Next operating round, LNN, seeing the monopoly the ABC has on being able to reach Birmingham, decides to stretch out for Corinth instead. However, and then the tag goes, tries to build track to get southward, buys an additional train, which the LNN chose not to, even though it's set up to run two trains at this point. It wants to get a three train. However, the ABC cuts off the tag with this track light. Now, this is only temporary. As soon as the threes come out, this isn't the case anymore. But they also don't buy the train. Basically, they're looking at, well, I'm making a lot of money. I've got 4, 5, 6 shares. Nobody else has more than me. The only person who has as many as I do is the guy holding the tag. So, hey, I might as well see what I can do to hose them a little bit, even if I'm holding a couple of shares of it. And be able to maybe set up a 2 or a 3 train heading down all the way to the Gulf. We'll see what happens in the stocks. Top of the next stock round, the first two players, this guy and this guy, had no company. Neither one chose to cash in. They would have had to start a company at the $60 mark with the last 2 train in position. That seemed a little questionable, even though one company, the WRA, appears to be more valuable to at least one of the two players. The guy with the Memphis and Charleston, he's in a better position to use that. The other guy might have preferred that, although the GMO or the ATN also might be just as valuable. Both of them chose to pass, however, based on that decision. And the ABC sold out because everybody had, $60 in hand. So a lot of shares of that sold. Right now we're at a position where the guy who's owning the tag has priority. Now he could dump his company, which might actually not be a bad idea. He's made some money off of it, and it's not in the greatest of positions. The only real advantage for it, or the big bonus, is that he's sitting on the coal field if he wants it. We'll see what happens. But I doubt he'll do that because holding a company is usually cool. But he's not going to have enough money to start a second company, and he probably isn't going to be the guy who gets 2 companies. So the owner of the tag decided not to sell. The next player did divest of his earnings. He was only able to float the WRA at 75. He had to do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't get the company. Or he wouldn't get the next company, whatever that was. Which meant the next player chose not to sell off because he would have been starting at an even lower value. Instead, he scooped up some cheap stocks. The LNR owner solidified his holdings slightly. He's not doing very well. That heavy initial investment, but especially with the Decatur yards, which don't pay off tremendously well. At $120 initial entry, they only pay $20. We got the Memphis and Charleston for $100, pays $20 around. Feels like the new Decatur yards is a bad buy, actually, and he bid extra on it, so he paid $125 for it. And then we have conglomeration of the lower valued stocks. We do see situations where, for example, the president of the tag owns 2 shares of the the Atlanta, Birmingham, and Coast, and that's kind of dangerous because he goes after him, so he could end up owning that. I'm looking at this as a hard game to rape a company, though. Nobody's got 2 companies yet, and they may not get a second company. Priority is sitting over on this guy who's holding 2 shares of a lot of things, but he was kind of willing to, hey, get a company maybe on 2 shares if need be. All right, we'll see. All right, very briefly, beginning of stock round, the only thing that's happened exciting was the ABC made the choice to connect Birmingham. They were threatened by the LNN. They decided to do it. Now, iffy choice. Basically, the question was, did they want the first 3 train? Their funds, the amount of money they're making on each run is much lower than anyone else's, except the new railroad. So they wanted to try to do something about that. Now, the LNN is going to be able to get the second token. There's no question about that, because now the greens are out and the tile came out. The other option was leave the first 3 train out there, let the LNN connect up and pay the big money to hook up to Birmingham, which they may not have wanted to do. They would have been putting a $40 dot in, which, yeah, that's okay in this. It's not a free dot, it's $100 off the dot. So they would have gotten in there anyway, and then they could have linked up and made more money. But this gets them a run quicker, I think. So it may have been an iffy choice. They want 2 trains. That's the big issue. And they can't really afford to get a 4 train at $300. So the 3 train at 180 seemed like the better decision at this point, and they're aiming for a 5 when they can get one.